Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of Washington Commanders Morning Show. Good morning to everybody. I'm your host, Trap or Die Podcast, Mual. Good morning to everybody that's watching live. That'll be checking the replay. Happy Wednesday. The weekend is almost here. Right. And make sure, everybody that's on the YouTube side, make sure you hit that follow button or subscribe button. We appreciate everybody that's checking in. But yeah, the weekend's almost here. You know, another week of Commanders football, meaningful playoff implicated football. Eagles are up next immediately. And you know, that game in itself, we talked about it yesterday on the podcast version. I feel like I said statement win. Washington needed one. If we want to do the semantics and say a signature win is desired, I think that the Philadelphia Eagles this upcoming week is going to hold the biggest chance to get that notch under Dan Quinn and company's belt. Even on that show, we talked a little bit about Atlanta. No, I'm sorry. On the recording of All 32, we talked about Atlanta. And we talked about the primetime slot in itself, specifically on the Trap or Die podcast yesterday. And lo and behold, we get news shortly after the show, the live show, that Michael Penix is going to be starting ahead of Kirk Cousins for the final stretch of the season for Atlanta. I think that is very, very, very interesting. For one, Penix got some time. I remember specifically he got a lot of time against the Denver Broncos. I'm about to actually check the games that he played, but he had like a whole quarter against the Denver Broncos. He finished, that was the game, 3 of 5 for 38 yards. He had one play against Seattle, or one throw against Seattle, 1 for 1, 14 yards. But Penix is getting a start, man. And you know what I think is most interesting about this situation? Never mind Kirk, right? Like Kirk Cousins, his career, like you get paid that much money, and the team that signed you said we have made our decision, and our decision says we don't want you starting that quarterback no more. In their first year of signing you, where you took $90 million from them dudes up front. For him to make that move, I think that's a signal across the league that they ain't nobody about to be interested in no Kirk Cousins. Like that time is over with. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what is in store for him. I think personally, I don't think Atlanta's going to cut him. Like not yet. I think the safest out that Atlanta has is after the 2025 season, where they get a $35 million hit in dead cap. That's the cheapest out that they got. Unless they just rip the Band-Aid off and cut them immediately and just cut their losses. But to that point, and why you draft Michael Penix, that was their insurance plan. Just like 12 years ago, Kirk Cousins was RG3's insurance plan for the coaching staff. So they made that move for Michael Penix. Clearly, at this point, it works out for now because you go to the future sooner than you expected. And honestly, whoever was the actual individual who said we should sign Kirk Cousins, congratulations, you played yourself. And that's no disrespect to Kirk. I'm just saying how things turned out. Because I actually thought that the Atlanta Falcons would win the division with this team. And the Bucs was the sleeper the whole time. What's going on, Benz? Yes, you're right. We have no business losing to the Falcons. But what makes this interesting for Atlanta is Penix comes into a season. Well, two things. Penix comes into a season late in the year where like he's kind of fresh in the sense that like nobody has an understanding of what he can and can't do. But this is also like he's getting placed in the field with like teams who are really gunning for a playoff spot. Like this is playoff football right now. Like people are trying to make the playoffs right now. And Atlanta Atlanta really is throwing this dude in the mix. Like some sink or swim type stuff. Like they should have saw Atlanta should have saw or foreseen this possibility coming like 2 weeks into their four game losing streak. They should have been made a decision to bench Kirk. But they let it linger this long, so they giving Penix the last 3 games of the season and hoping for a miracle. I'm sure they're not going to be hurting too bad if they don't make the playoffs. But honestly, because they have Penix, but honestly, when you wait this long and you let that $90 million man, $90 million guaranteed, at signing, and you let that $90 million man play however many games, like while he's noticeably struggling, that's on y'all. It is what it is. So we'll cross the Atlanta bridge further when we get there. But I did think that news to start Penix versus Jaden Daniels in primetime, that's going to be a very entertaining football game. Atlanta still has weapons, so I'm not going to sit here and they got Bijan. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, Atlanta won't be competing that night. Like they got some dogs, and they got a decent secondary, and they got Grady Jarrett. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get there by next week. Hold on a second. Okay. Armani, shout out to Armani, who is a subscriber and supporter of the show. Armani asked about, Jonathan Allen coming back, right? I know we haven't talked about it on the show in depth or anything. I actually don't think we talked about it at all since the news came out that Jonathan Allen is slated to come back, or has. Let me rephrase that. There's a possibility of John Allen returning for Washington, which is for when we heard the news of Jonathan Allen possibly coming back. One of the more important questions that popped into my mind was when exactly does a guy with a what was it, a torn bicep? Like where does that, like, where do you just slide in terms of the rotation? I don't know exactly about this John Allen injury. Torn pec. All right. But they said the muscle was only partially torn when they discovered it during surgery. So, there's a hope that he returns late season, but it's like I'm not no doctor, so I'm not gonna sit here and say that, what does the recovery look like? But at the same time, like what's his snap count gonna look like? And like how effective can he be? I think that's my bottom line question is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, how effective can John Allen be returning so soon? Again, it's only partially torn, and that's something that I can't control. Like in terms of what the doctors feel he can and can't do. But if he's out there, that's one thing. But I look at John Allen, and you see kind of exactly a couple things, and or my opinion. When we talk about double teams and those combo blocks up front, he had issues stalemating. Like it wasn't just the rookie and Johnny Newton who I've called out on the show, not like in a negative way. Like he's young, and he still got to grow. But like those combo blocks, those double teams, he's still trying to find his way in terms of like understanding leverage points, and being able to stalemate double teams to help his linebackers out or help his defensive linemen, his teammates out. But John Allen struggled too. And so did Deron Payne. Like there was only a literal couple individuals on this defensive line, the interior side, who can really handle those double teams. And I'm not sitting here saying that what I'm expressing means John Allen shouldn't come back if he's healthy enough to come back. And I'm not saying that he's incapable of playing in this defense. I think he'll be a big help. Like he'll be a big help against the run. I mean, he can provide you some interior pass rush. You know, that's been lacking a little bit. All right. I think Johnny Newton did have a couple reps against New Orleans where, you know, he got some juice. He didn't really create a true pressure because the ball got out quicker, but he beat his offensive lineman like really quick. But the ball just got out quicker from, I think, Hayner and Rattler. But you need some interior pass rush help. Like, and that's what John Allen can do. If there's one thing that he can do is he's going to get you a good pass rush. So I think that's where his strength is going to come when his strength is going to come when he comes back. Oh, that's where it's going to reside, whatever. So I think that's the biggest part when I think about John Allen. If he is going to come back, what he's going to help with the most is going to be in obvious passing situations. And I think from an interior standpoint, if you can get Johnny, Deron, and maybe like a Dante Fowler in a package where those four are the defensive line, like I think you can really cause some havoc in some obvious pass rush situations. I think that like having those three individuals in particular who can really get at the pass rusher. And then obviously Frankie Louisville is going to have his time on the defensive line if he's not going to be a stand-up, a two-point linebacker on the edge. Like those type of things where you can implement those three defensive linemen or those three defensive tackles, like in a pass rush situation, like that's their strength. So I'm interested. I'm following that storyline. I think going up against Philly, you're going to need something like that. You're going to need a healthy rotation anyway. Carl Davis, who replaced my man Big Phil, my superstar. He really is a superstar. Honestly, I think they doing because I don't think Carl Davis is. I mean, if he won the battle in practice, I'm being completely honest. This ain't even no bias. Like, I really don't see a drop off in play between Carl Davis and Phil Mathis. I don't see it. And they say like he just won a battle in practice, so that allows him to start. Okay, cool. I will say one thing. And they have every reason to feel like this, given the history. But I just think they trying their way, or they trying their best to phase out the Rivera draft picks. See what I'm saying? And again, that's not a negative, right? I don't think that there's much here to hold on to. They do have some pieces, right? Like a small percentage of people that have clearly solidified themselves as a Dan Quinn, Adam Peters player. But if you are on the borderline, you're basically gone. You are basically gone. So yeah, that's that. We'll see what happens when John Allen comes back. Other news that we have, since we're speaking of injuries, Zach Ertz, Jeremy Chin, we talked about that yesterday too. But one aspect that I think that we should discuss before we get into this film session is who's going to be the bigger loss between the two. Like I thought it was interesting because I look at Derek Forrest and his snap counts. I don't know if you all seen his snap counts. Derek Forrest he played 31 snaps against, is this 31? 31. Yeah. 31 snaps against the New Orleans Saints. That's the most he's played all season, and it's not due to injury. First and foremost, if you play 31 snaps, like I guess it does depend on when you get into the game. But Derek Forrest, it wasn't because of injury. Derek Forrest was in with like the first drive of the game, maybe I want to say that the first play. Did he start? I'm double checking. I don't think he started though. Yeah, he didn't start. But he was in there the first drive of the game. Ended up playing 56% of the snaps. That's how many 31 was. So he was a special teams guy and he played defense as well. So 31 snaps, 56% of the snap count. But what I think is interesting with Derek Forrest and why this is noted, I talked about Percy Butler and how his role was in this defense, throughout the season against the New Orleans Saints. Matter of fact, let me actually do a comparison. He only played eight snaps against the New Orleans Saints. Percy Butler did. And the entire season he has played, let's see, 109. Oh, excuse me, my bad. 320 snaps he's played. So like I have you percentage in terms of his role in the offense. I mean, I keep saying offense. His role in the defense, right? 320 snaps. That is not a significant amount compared to Noah Igbenogany, Ben, Jeremy, and Quan, and Mike, who all have over 600 snaps. But it shows you like what their usage is for a Percy Butler and what he can do as that single high safety or that person who comes down as that hooker spy player towards the middle of the field, right after those after the post snap rotations or late rotations in the snap count, right? But anyway, and where am I getting at with this point, right? Jeremy Chin may not be around against the Philadelphia Eagles, but I also think what Derek Forrest and why he was in the game, I think what's interesting from this standpoint is they had him in a lot on. I mean, well, the Saints they passed the ball pretty often. The Saints did. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I think that his usage was just as similar to Jeremy Chin's. So Jeremy Chin had 40 plays before he got knocked out in that second half, right? But Jeremy Chin played in the middle of the field. He was a split safety. He played in the slot. He played out wide at cornerback. And he played in the box. Derek Forrest, the same exact thing. He had the same exact usage. Split safeties on both sides of the hash marks. He played middle of the field. He was in the box. He played slot and he played cornerback. Obviously, the one cornerback rep he played, I think, is when, they threw the touchdown his way on that pick play. But Derek, I think that was kind of a wrinkle coming out of the out of the bye week. Like the way they use him in situations, I think Jeremy Chin played closer to the line of scrimmage. Um like I wouldn't say they blitzed them completely. But like that combination, or sometimes Jeremy Chin wouldn't even be on the field. Like it'd be like passing situations where you'll see Derek Forrest and like it was one moment where Derek Forrest actually, I think it was a pass deflection, maybe Deron Payne, where Spencer Rattler was throwing towards the left side of the defense, and Derek Forrest, I think, was in a quarters coverage. And Derek Forrest is underneath the route or the receiver, and he had a cornerback over top of the receiver, and they were breaking out. And Derek Forrest, if the pass was not tipped, it's an interception for Derek Forrest. And I think for him, in his game back, I don't think he really played terribly. I think the instance where you get, rubbed at the line of scrimmage for that touchdown that was thrown at the end of the game, I think you have to, I mean, I'm sure the coaches would say something about getting under the rub, obviously, or playing through it, possibly drawing the flag, but get under it as opposed to like trying to get around it. So I don't know exactly like the exact coaching point for an instance like that, but you can't get caught in the rub, obviously. And I know coaches probably have a way of telling him how to play that a little bit better. I'm not going to sit here and be his coach for him, but I do think that's interesting. Derek, again, is one instance why, if you lose Jeremy Chin, the people who was clamoring for Derek Forrest, you get your opportunity, right? That's one thing that you look at on the defense side of the football. But Zach Ertz, you lose Zach. Now, they brought up Tyree Jackson. And they brought Tyree Jackson to the practice squad. The Commanders did, right? And that's no indication that Zach Ertz won't be ready. What's going on, Benila? Wanted everybody that's just checking in. That's not to say that Zach Ertz won't be ready on Sunday. But I also think that if you do lose Zach, that tight end group was in trouble to begin with. Like, you're not going to have the same type of versatility that Zach Ertz brings. And when I say versatility for Zach, I'm not talking about like his effectiveness in the run game. I don't think he's that strong. In terms of like how he can handle run assignments, I don't think he gives you effort, but you can always desire for more. I don't think versatility in that regard, but I think versatility in what he can do as a pass catcher. Think about it like this. If you all heard me talk about Austin Eckler and what he means to this offense, Brian Robinson can catch the football, right? Jeremy McNichols, he can catch the football. That's a given. Chris Rodriguez, I'm sure he can catch the football. Like being able to catch the ball is one thing, right? And tight ends and John Bates, tight end and Ben Sinnott, y'all can do that. Y'all can catch the football. But the ability to run routes, understand the stem usage, right? Being able to manipulate defenders, whether it's through your upper body movements or closing cushions, understanding, I already mentioned where to stem. Like your creativity at the top of a route, overall fluidity, like that versatility that Zach Ertz brings, because that's how you become a receiver who is at the top of the progression, as opposed to a receiver who's out there running routes just to get that cardio in. See what I'm saying? So that's what John Bates and Luke McCaffrey's out there for. Run that damn cardio. Or Ben Sinnott. I don't know if I said John Bates, but Ben Sinnott, that's what Ben Sinnott and Luke McCaffrey's out there for. So I think for Washington, losing Zach Ertz is going to be a big deal. And I think that's going to be more of a big deal against the Philadelphia Eagles. You gotta, like, when you're thin at the playmaker spot, I think that's where the trouble comes in, because you need you can't afford to lose your top guys when you're thin of or short of like playmaking individuals. They have like 5 of them. You got I'm making sure you got Terry, you got B-Rob, Zach Ertz, Jaden, of course, Austin Eckler, and I guess Noah Brown. So that's 6. And 2 of them went on IR. So we'll see. I think Zach Ertz is probably the bigger loss out of the 2, and that just needs to be taken into account. We'll see how they adjust. That's funny. I put power tanking, so I didn't mean to do that. All right. So let's go ahead and get into. Let's get to the film session. Let's talk about what we saw against the New Orleans Saints. There's going to be there's going to be another film session that gets published on the channel by tomorrow. What's today? Wednesday. By tomorrow. So we're going to see a little bit more on the offensive side in that one. Today we're going to mix it up a little bit. Let me make sure I got my notes. I do. And then we'll start this thing. Get my stuff together over here. Big Z. Who's Big Z? Zacchaeus? Zacchaeus been the same dude all year. That's my dog. My browser has blocked the screen. Okay. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm trying to figure out video file. I'm tripping. Okay. I'm gonna start off with let's start off with the playoff touchdown. I said the first touchdown. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Zacchaeus role been the same all year. And he gets more involved when Noah Brown is out. Like that. It was one game that Noah Brown either didn't play or he got hurt or something like that. But he's been the same role. It's just unfortunate they don't really target him as much. I'm lying. He's like 4th in the team in targets. But they don't target him as much when Noah Brown is playing. All right, here we go. So this is the touchdown. I'm gonna actually let it run and then we'll talk about it. And I'm tripping. Let me get my music, bro. I get my background music. That's a playmaker for you right there. So before this, Dan Quinn talked about this in his pressure on Monday. This play, but this example altogether. Jaden, before this play is where I was getting at. He's had some solid moments already, right? This is the 14th play of the game. Jaden Daniels had at this point a couple of 3rd down conversions. One in particular that was really good, under duress with Brandon Coleman being laid off the ball, but being able to dump it off to Crowder in one moment on the 3rd and 9 to get them to help get them into scoring range. Then you're talking about this 14th play on the 2nd and 16, right? You lose, or you have a 6-yard loss, on first down. And now you're in a situation where you got to find a way to make a play. And scramble drills are one of the more important factors of red zone specifically, but generally speaking, when your quarterback tries to stay alive, you stay alive for your quarterback, right? And that's a good job by Terry. We can see up here how the initial pressure spooks Jaden, right? When they run that DT stunt, I said DT stunt, TE stunt, tackle in, right? Cosme successfully is able to pass him off, but I don't think Wiley was aware of the incoming pick, right? So he ends up getting pushed out of the way, and the pursuit is on. But Jaden again buying time for his receivers to try and make a play. That's one of the bigger things of this moment, right? Like you almost lost right here, but you found a way to get back up and maintain your feet, and then gather yourself to throw a great ball. Now, Brian Robinson ain't had no business being over there, but he was just looking at the football. This was to Terry the whole way. And you'll see it from this angle. You have two jet outs and corner routes over top of the jet outs. Essentially, probably clearing the way for that check down underneath, right? He's wide open. He could dump it off. Jaden can. And some would argue that, that's probably the more beneficial or positive play that you can have in this moment. I wouldn't disagree completely. You even have Zach Ertz if you had more time, right? If you look at the top of your screen, as he's bending out on this corner route, that safety's already out of position, right? He's banking on maybe an inside route, so he's out of position. But again, as we showed up front, that stunt that New Orleans ran ends up freeing the defensive lineman, right? So he's in pursuit mode. But as you see Terry just ends up having that scrambling mode process. He sees that big green area, right? And he knows if I exploit that, I have an opportunity to make for my quarterback. So Jaden is able to gather, find, and Terry makes an aggressive catch at the catch point, making sure that, if I'm going to do something in this moment, I'm not going to let the New Orleans Saints players get a chance at grabbing the football. I'm going to go grab that, bro. Give me my touchdown. I low-key do wish Brian Robinson caught that because I had him on the anytime touchdown, John, and he didn't get it. Damn, bro. Yeah, man. Prayers up for you, Mike. That's a little rough. Oh, that's a little rough. Yeah, man. Prayers up for you, Mike. Appreciate you checking in, bro. You a soldier, man. You a soldier, bro. All right, let's keep this pushing. Dang, Mike. Good morning, though, man. Good morning, everybody that's just checking in. Let's go to Zach Ertz. All right, so we mentioned the Zach Ertz loss, right? I think that's going to be a bigger loss for this team than losing Jeremy Chin for a game or maybe 2 games, however long Jeremy Chin may be out. Hopefully he's not out at all, right? And hopefully neither one of these guys are out. But red zone play. This is play 32. This is a 3rd and 3. This is actually one of the bigger moments of this game. Came on this drive, like a couple plays before this, right, where they faced a 2nd and 20. And Jaden found a way to get them a first down conversion. And this is also like the second drive of the game where you're talking about, these points end up being consequential to the outcome of the game, given the fact that Washington basically got shut out the end zone the rest of the way. So imagine if they end up punting on this drive as opposed to being able to move the sticks and get themselves in scoring range, right? So let's go ahead and run it, and then we'll talk about it. It's a hell of a snag. That boy Zach be learning from me, boy. I tell you, boy, I do stuff like that all the time. All right. So first and foremost, let's go protection first. Let's go protection first. So they show a 5-man front, right, with your 2 edge defenders looking like they're going on a rush, and you got second level linebacker, right? So they end up running some form of a creeper pressure where, you know, you simulate pressure up front with your 5 or some of your edge defenders, and you have one of your edge defenders drop, right? But you replace that edge defender or that defensive lineman with the second level guy, and that is 56, right? But shout out to Jeremy McNichols, because while he gets put on his ass, right? The man get put on his ass. He does just enough for Sam Cosmi to find him and being able to put 56 on his ass, right? So that gives him the time, Jaden Daniels, to sit in the pocket and make the proper read. Sure, he's under duress, but like he clearly is in this mode where it's like, I'm passer first. I see who I want to throw it to, and I'm gonna deliver the football. And he delivers a good ball. It's on time. What's in the schedule or the structure of the play, right? It's not like a delay. And it's not to a point where, you know, Zach Ertz is getting killed, right? Zach Ertz had enough time to gather himself and make a play after the catch. So again, we run this, and during this pass rush, right? Like I said, Sam Cosmi's uncovered. He's expecting Cam, right, to rush him, but he ends up rushing to the edge. And the goal for the Saints clearly is to get that one-on-one with the linebacker. But good job by Sam Cosmi, because after he recognizes that Cam Jordan is slanting to outside, he's able to turn his head quickly. He recognizes that blitzer, and he's able to make the play for Jaden. And this is the space that he creates. That's a great play from Sam Cosmi. That's a great play from Jeremy McNichols, not being scared, showing that toughness that you need to show. Sure, you got put on your ass, but you did just enough, and your help got there. So up front, you see from a bunches alignment, they really work a game with Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz, right? Terry just jets straight towards the middle of the field on an over, right, or that deep crosser. And in this man coverage, Zach Ertz, you have selling like that vertical route up the sideline, up the seam, before he breaks it back towards like a post route. I don't know what they call it, maybe like a return route. I'm not too sure. I think that's what they call it, like a return route. But again, sell that vertical up the seam before bending it back in towards the middle of the field. So, come on. Like the one-handed catch on the run. They say he ain't no yak guy, which he ain't, but he gets you 6 or 7 yards in yak on this one. It's pretty impressive. All right. Oh, but while Zach made a play, the whole point of bringing that up is actually showing our guy Jaden, right, under pressure in a red zone moment, right. This is a drive that ends up leading to a touchdown. It's actually the very next play that is impressive. For those that like Ben Sinnott, you know, you had an opportunity if you wanted to throw it to him. But the ball placement here is important, right? This is cover 0, so it's man across the board. You don't have an opportunity to have a misfire in terms of like a throw behind them or an off target inaccurate pass that's late. Because if it's late or behind them, it's trouble. But the placement and where he threw it, let's kind of show it again. I think they showed it in this angle. Outside, right? it only allows Terry to make a play on the football. Like that placement. Let me see. This is probably better. Let's see. Yeah, this is probably a little bit better. Look at where he's catching the ball, bro. And it's a dot. Like it's not flailing in the air, bro. It's on a straight line to Terry. That's crazy, bro. Like in a good way. Obviously in a good way, but that's crazy. You know, sometimes, not even sometimes. I'll just say this: point blank period in the red zone, bro. You cannot afford to be late, and you can't afford to be inaccurate. And Jaden has that touch, and he has the anticipation that you need in the red zone. Most times, he has it. He's still growing, but at the end of the day, talking about Jaden, who I think is really grown as a passer in a short amount of time. He's still not completely there. Like this game showed some of his flaws, and even Dan Quinn talked about it. Like he holds onto the football a little bit too much. Sometimes that led to sacks. That led to sacks in the pocket, but then also those dumbass like two-hand touch sacks as he's going out of bounds. So it does give the illusion that the offensive line, because the first thing you think about is 8 sacks. Like three or four of those sacks was him just running out of bounds. So there wasn't that many that was really like on the offensive line, but that's the first thing that you think about. Okay. Let's go to this one. Yeah. I do think this was one of Jaden's best games. I actually said, so it's a film session coming out tomorrow morning. Well, I shouldn't say tomorrow morning. Film session coming out tomorrow. And I break down in detail, like specifically more plays for the offense. This is the last play I'm gonna get to offensively. But Jaden put the team on his back. Like every single thing that Washington did offensively was on the back of Jaden. Whether it was his legs, with key carries and scrambles. Whether it was like that fourth down conversion, diving over top of the pile, knowing that there was nowhere to go offensively on that 4th and 1 call last drive of the game. Like you get a yard, and nobody's gonna talk about a 1-yard gain. Like if you look at the stat sheet, but if you watch the moment and you watch the game, you see how big of a dive that was to get over that pile, obviously, right? Some of the plays like this one that I'm about to show on the last drive of the game, like every single play that Jaden made was, I shouldn't say all of them were positive, right? I should rephrase that. But majority of the success that Washington had on the day was because of Jaden. And the mistakes that were made on the field are not in his control. This was a play that got called back because of holding. But in the moment, right, you're talking about going for the kill shot on 2nd and 13, and like you get in the red zone, bro. This is a game. This is a moment where the game is over if it's not a holding call. Diami goes up and snags the ball. You're guaranteed at least 3 points, if not a touchdown. And New Orleans is gone home early. But Jaden, again, when you're seeing this moment and you're seeing how Jaden is reacting in the pocket, this is a 4th quarter, right? Like you're trying to end the game, and to take this throw downfield, right, under some duress. Take this throw under some duress and deliver a dot to Diami, bro. Yeah, this was one of Jaden's best games. All right, he threw with anticipation. He was within the timing of the offense for a good percentage of his plays, a healthy percentage of his plays, right? When Washington needed him to make the throw, he made the throw. It's just unfortunate that him and Terry couldn't connect on 3 opportunities in that second half. 3 different opportunities. Those hurt. You got to have those. But outside of those 2, or out of those 3 in particular, Jaden had a really solid game. let's go to the defense. Where do I want to start? Okay. All right, play 3. All right. So, what's going on, Jay Tizzy? Good morning. Good morning to everybody that's checking in. All right, so this was a 3rd and 3. So the third play of the game for Washington's defense. Hayner ends up completing his pass along the sideline. Mikey Samuelsville actually gets lost in coverage a little bit, having his eyes on the quarterback. Ends up being like a 16, 17 yard completion. I forget to who. But this is okay. But this is important because we're talking about how great effort ends up getting you calls sometimes, right? Like Dante Fowler's get off puts the right tackle in a bind, right? I think his get off on this play was like a half a second, like 0.5, 0.6 at the snap. Like that's how fast that get off was for Dante. And you can see how the lineman reacts. Like he says, forget the pass set. I'm about to just go out there. I'm gonna try to stop him, bro, and I'm gonna lean on him. Ends up getting a holding call. So like great effort. Third play of the game from Dante. Dante again, so he had a hell of a game. I think those flags, it was unfortunate. I'm not gonna sit here and talk about what's fair and what's not fair. I think the most important part is what Dan Quinn said. I think it was Monday, if not immediately after the game. But like their aiming point. That's just he's just flat out said it. Like you got to be a little bit lower if you have a lowered if your target is shorter. Like if he's not a big framed guy, you got to go a little bit lower. So that's unfortunate for Dante Fowler had a really good game in my opinion. All right, so here is the fourth play of the game, 3rd and 13. I actually don't know how they gave this to Deron. It looked like Dorrance Armstrong. Let me double check who actually ended up getting him. Or Dante. Who was it? Dante? Yeah, Dante Fowler touched him last. Should have been his sack. But here we go. From a coverage standpoint, you end up getting a coverage sack. And this is actually one of the first moments, like the fourth play of the game, where you can see the Marshawn Lattimore effect. Marshawn is at the bottom of your screen here. All right. And Marshawn is checking Marquez Valdez-Scantling along the boundary. All right. So he's out there. You have your split safety look right now with your one safety towards the bottom of the hash, and you have another safety at the top of the hash. At the post snap, they're going to rotate into that cover 3 shell, right? That single high shell. And you have Marshawn and MVS in that one-on-one situation. He's running a corner post, but they leave him on an island, right? They're not even worried about his side, right? And they rotate the help over to the trip side. Again, it is cover 3, right? So you don't have too high help. You're not gonna have help over top, right? But when you look at this play, and just making sure that nobody gets over top of the trip side, it's clear like the amount of space they're willing to let Marshawn work with by himself, as opposed to like having that safety being in the middle of the hash where he can kind of navigate both that trip side and what's going on the right side as a single high safety. They just said, hey, worry about that trip side. Don't worry about anything else. And they let Marshawn do his own thing on that boundary side of the field. So that's kind of your first instance of what you could do from a coverage standpoint. Ultimately, Hayner, he looked a little lost. This is a little crazy just to see it. Like, he looked like that. He looked like that. I don't know why they didn't start Spencer Rattler. I have no idea. Wait, show that one. All right. 3rd and 4. Let's go ahead and run this. Yeah. Except for Caleb, a little bit more coordinated. All right, so Washington runs. Hold on, wait, did I? Oh, I see. All right, so I'm not tripping. Let me make sure. All right, yeah, I'm not tripping. Must I didn't know if I had the right player or not. All right, so let's go ahead and start this from the top. You're in a cover 0 situation where every single defensive back is occupied with a receiver that's going out on the route. But what was interesting about this is like he spot dropped 2 of the linebacker. I mean, yeah, 2 of the linebackers. So is that Louvu and Bobby Wagner? Yeah. So they don't have any specific assignment, man assignment, except for like to cover the middle of the field. So it's not that like not necessarily a true man across the board thing, but you have 2 linebackers who's showing that double A gap pressure, right? You got both of them just protecting the middle of the field on crossers or anything like that. Anything that's going over, they should be watching it. And obviously, as you saw, Bobby Wagner was kind of late with his eyes with that crosser that's on his right coming to his left. But ultimately, that ends up getting Haener on the move, right? In this cover 0 situation, you have, I think that Sam was still at the bottom of your screen checking Kamara. And Noah Igbenogany on his inside. And he just throws a late pass over the middle. And shout out to Mike Sanders still going to get there. Yeah, double lurk. There you go. Yeah, just protecting that middle of the field with Wagner and Louvu. So good job from Sanders still just being aggressive at the catch point, right? Going to get the football. You end up flipping the field for your team. And good rep by him. I think I had the other one. Let me double check. Yes, I do. So what is split 15? Okay. By the way, the reason why I think it's important to show this defense, I have no idea. Like I said this on the post game show. I have no idea why, you give up 19 points that late. I think there's a lot of circumstances that allowed New Orleans to get in that position, right? Sure, you can get them off the field, bottom line. But the bottom line also is Washington did get these guys off the field. Washington got these guys off the field a couple times on the drives in which they gave up points. But we had the penalties from Dante Fowler. You had a penalty from Ben St. Juste that kept a drive alive, right? But like Washington had moments where they got them off the field on their scoring drives, right? And I think for them, of the 60 plays that New Orleans ran, this is a rough number. It's not the exact number. But of the 60 plays that New Orleans ran, Washington's defense played good for like 45 of them. Maybe even closer to 50. So I think we gotta keep that into account when we talk about what exactly is going on with this Washington defense. And I say all that to say this is a play where I think this is a play where is this my this isn't it. Okay. But we are going to show. I say all that to say, like, this is one of those plays where, like, I think you can look at the 3-game stretch that's coming up and see just how effective. Now, Bobby Wagner has been always, like, this season, he's been a really good pass rusher, right? He actually surprised me because I didn't know he had pass rush moves like this, right? This is trying to make sure I get the exact play right. Let's play 15. Yes. All right. So this is a 3rd and 5 in the second quarter. That's what I was looking for. We'll talk about up front first, and then we'll talk about what happened on the back end. Is this okay. 15. So this is another instance of like a creeper pressure. So you're sending 2nd level or 3rd level guys to replace your defensive lineman, right? Now in this moment, you know, you have Bobby Wagner running as well as Jeremy Chin, who's blitzing late, right? Both of those guys are going in on the blitz. And you have Cleveland Farrell and Christian Holmes, right? They drop into coverage on this cover too, right? So they have the middle of the field responsibilities, right? And they're sending Jeremy Chin, Shelton Day, Bobby Wagner, and who is that? Deron Payne. And Bobby has a good move at the line of scrimmage, right? Getting that spin move on. Is that the center? I don't know. But the center ends up getting beat. And Bobby's spin move forces Hayner right into the hands of Jeremy Chin. So I think this is important from a 3-game stretch standpoint because, like, when you go up against Philly, right? Just as importantly, Atlanta with their new quarterback in Penix. When you go up against these guys, interior pressure is going to be very essential, right? You got to find a way to get this interior pressure on all 3 of these last 3 teams, right? That's why I'm interested in seeing when John Allen comes back, right? He's a guy you can trust to bring interior pressure. Speaking specifically to the pass game, but this moment where you can dial up pressure, and Joe Witt Jr. is very aware of the amount of pressure that he brings. I think he's like a top 10 team in terms of pressure or 5+ man rushes, right? As opposed to natural 4-man rushes. But like, this is one of those moments where it's like the creativity that he has. And granted, you could do this on a Hayner because he's younger. But you got to find a way to consistently bring these matchups to the floor, but also have moments where you can create mismatches. This never shut down. Okay. Oh, now it shut down. Boy, what just happened? All right. Let's go to the next play. Fire zones, yeah, fire zones. John Allen. Well, John Allen, you need John Allen. And Sheldon Day's playing good football. But you need John Allen because you need him to help rush the passer. Sheldon Day ain't doing that for you. I like Johnny Newton, but he ain't consistently there yet. He made a couple plays against the Saints in terms of pass rusher. And Deron Payne needs some help too. Dorrance Armstrong and Cleveland Farrell ain't really like pass rushers, like consistent enough. So you need to find a way to complement that. And I don't know exactly what John Allen's future is like in terms of being able to come back before the season is over. But if he's available, I think he is somebody who needs to be considered as a pass rusher. I don't think that he's your guy that you can trust really in the run game anymore. But as a pass rusher, that's a guy that you can work with. Keep him in packages like that 3DT package with Johnny and Deron. I think it's going to work real well for John Allen when he comes back. You can have Dante Fowler out there. You can have Frankie Louvu out there. Get a little bit creative. They actually did that before John Allen got hurt. They had those 3 DT packages with Deron, Johnny, and John. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm just pulling something up. All right, here we go. All right. Let's get into the last couple plays of the film session. Jalen, we ain't talking about after the season. We talking about right now. Can't cut him. They need him to play. We ain't worried about after the season. Whatever they do after the season, it is what it is. It's the same conversation we probably be having with Deron. Like both of them ain't living up to their contract at all. Neither one of them. But right now you need them. And they really need Big Phil, but we ain't gonna go down that route. You hear me? All right, where was I at? Play 12. Where is play 21? All right, here we go. So this is another moment of San Francisco just being aggressive, and which should have been, his second INT of the day. Coming off the receiver, trying to make a play on the football. You get another cover 1 instance, right? Or a man coverage instance, not really cover 1. They ran cover 0 the last time we showed. But you show a pass rush pressure. You end up sending 5, I believe. And Mike Sanders still does a good job recovering, right? Playing off a little bit. So he gets lost in kind of the wash with that receiver going vertical. But he fights and able to get all around through the traffic and almost make a pick on the play. Shout out to him, like I said, for being aggressive. I was going to sit here and say he should have caught it, but, being that threat out there now, because they're not going to worry about Marshawn Lattimore, right? Matter of fact, what did Marshawn do in this play? But quarterbacks ain't going to worry too much about Marshawn, right? It's all about how exactly do I find a way to exploit the rest of the DBs, because I don't expect any opponent of Washington to fully respect the other cornerbacks until they show something, right? I personally think that Sanders still plays well. I think that Noah Igbenogany plays well. And I'm sure that everybody out there that's watching ends up saying, like, these cornerbacks play well, right? But from a man standpoint, they got to prove it. And I think Sanders still being able to make a couple plays on the football, right? Picking one off, and then almost having another interception and crashing on it like this. I think putting that on tape is ultimately a driving factor to teams. Like, all right, well, we know who's going to be aggressive. We know who can make plays at the catch point. I'm talking about a former receiver anyway. Like, Sanders still is that's the guy where I think I want to know. Like, I hope AJ Brown plays. We can win against AJ. Washington can beat the Philadelphia Eagles with or without AJ Brown. But at the end of the day, like, I want AJ playing because I want to see. All right, I want to see how Washington is able to. I want to see Washington show their card defensively. Like, how are they going to play against teams like that with multiple receiving threats? Obviously. All right, let's go to. I want to show 2 more plays. Which one is this? Play 11. Let's just play 11. It's 2 Frankie Louvu plays. So this was kind of a drop from MVS, but Louvu got his hands on it, right? That ultimately is the reason why the play was impacted, right? So shout out to him. I think they end up running. What is this? They have the Commanders end up running the cover 2, right? So they have Mike Sanders still, and I think that is that Percy Butler? Who is that? I can't tell. I think that's Percy. No, I think that's Jeremy Chin. At the top of your screen by the 50-yard line. Either way, you got your cornerback, you got a safety who ends up bailing as the two highs, right? And you have Quan drop down as the inverted guy, so he's carrying the middle of the field. I think Quan has a moment where he gets lost. I think he loses the receiver, or he doesn't have really a good feel for him as he's bending across to towards the middle of the field, bending his route over towards the middle of the field. So he ends up losing him, unless he's chasing. Yeah, I think he was going for. I think he was just trying to make sure that he defended that middle of the field and walled it off, but he didn't. He wasn't able to wall it off. But anyway, cover 2, and the simulated pressure allows, like, well, Frankie was a little off. I think he was biting on Alvin Kamara himself. Let me double check. Yeah, it's no simulated pressure. I think they anticipated run. Okay. Yeah. Looks like they were just anticipating run, not as simulated pressure. And you get Frankie Louvu with a good spot drop, able to get back in his spot and get hands on the football, which is really good because, again, it prevented a big play. But I wonder what happens if he had a little bit more depth. We may be talking about an interception here, right? Just like the play where he actually did drop an interception. And again, I want to remind you all, like I said, I don't think the defense played bad. Like, this is another play, right? We talked about penalties and mistakes, right? This is another play that if Washington if Louvu picks the ball off, we're not talking about New Orleans scoring, right? We're talking about the game is still under control. Good job from Louvu. This is a bad decision from Spencer Rattler. I guess he gets a little carried away, thinks that he can hit Juwan Johnson down the seam, even though I did need Juwan with 25 plus receiving yards. I did on the parlay. But Spencer throws a bad ball. It's a little flat, but it allows Frankie Louvu to get underneath. So he has good eyes, but also is able to, move a little bit well in space, right? Just drops the pass. But again, you're talking about a person that's in position, right? And he also knew he had help over top, so it's easy to crash down like that on the ball and try and make a play. Yeah, so yeah, Noah yeah, he is hooping. But that's why I'm like teams. I don't think teams is respecting the secondary, but like their results, and if you know, like their results speak for themselves. Certain players, right? We're not gonna say the entire secondary, but certain players' numbers and their production, like on film production, speaks for themselves. And I think adding Lattimore to that, like that's why I want to see AJ Brown on the field Sunday. And hopefully he can play. But I want them at full health. And that's just I don't know how anybody else feel, but I would love to see them at full health, bro. I really will. Okay. All right, but that's gonna wrap it up for the film session. Who is this? Okay. We'll have another one come out tomorrow. More in detail about the offense, specifically Jaden Daniels, how he put the team on his back. Let's close this out with where are we? Yeah, that's another point too. Jay Tizzy, nobody's really passing. Well, I mean they are, but they ain't really. They're not that successful. Like a lot of teams do. They do try to pass on Washington, but they ain't getting nowhere. I think the highest was against the Dallas Cowboys over the last. Put it this way. Wait, let me look. Hold on. They've only allowed 2 300-yard passers. That's Cincinnati. That's Baltimore. They've only allowed 3 total games where somebody's thrown over 250 yards on them. That's Tampa Bay. That's Baltimore. That's Cincy. And they've only allowed, hey, this is crazy, bro. They only allowed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They only allowed 6 games of over 200 yards passing. Well, they played 14 games, bro, and they've only allowed six teams to pass over 200 yards. Philadelphia, Tennessee, and granted, Tennessee is passing over 200 because they're down 28-0 before the game even starts. So yeah, 6 teams over 200 yards: Philadelphia, Tennessee, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Cincinnati. And since let's sort this. How do I, all right, there we go. Since which game was that? Week 7. All right, so let's see. Since week 7, the Commanders are allowing 105 62 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Bruh, since week 7, right? 8 weeks ago, the Commanders are allowing 169 yards passing. I mean, they are the number 4 passing team, passing defense in the NFL. I thought I should have led with that. As I said, like they get the second fewest pass attempts on them because everybody likes to run the football. But even still, they only allowing 169 passing yards a game. Quite impressive. I think if you have a more efficient team, if you have more efficient teams who can pass the football, then I think you run into those problems. Cincinnati is Cincinnati, like they some dogs, bro. And I think that was T. Higgins' first game back. Tampa Bay, they was at full health. With Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and they're stable at tight ends. Baltimore, they had who they had. Zay Flowers killed us in the first half alone. But we couldn't stop them either. I think those type of teams can really cause problems. Pittsburgh, like they got caught on, they got a little hot late, as well as Chicago. They got hot late, but they wasn't able to really, I didn't really think that they was a true threat. It was more Washington getting in their own way. And eventually, like if you don't do anything offensively, like that defense may get on a little slide if you can't do nothing too much. Yeah, that's it, honestly. But to the point, and why I think about it, I don't think Washington's really going. I mean, if you find your way against Detroit or Green Bay, you may run into some problems. As a pass defense, but that's about it. I don't really see that many teams threatening Washington as a passing offense, but that's only half the story. We're talking about a team who well, Rico Dowdle and Tyrone Tracy put up what, 100 yards in the first half on this defense, bro. And then Rico Dowdle put up what, 80 something yards on these guys. Let me double check. Yeah, 86 yards on these guys, bro. And I think 50 in the first half. 50 if not in the first quarter, something like that. So yeah, honestly, that's where I'm coming from, bro. So I was like, they play a really solid game, and it's important for people to know that, like, they play a really solid game. And in the weeks that Washington gets stagnant offensively, bro, you start to see the defense give up some plays. And then like the game against Tennessee, I don't think that they was truly threatening to come back and get into the game. But those little lulls offensively, like it transfers to the defense too. So we gotta take all that into account. Let's see. What is she talking about? Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up on this Commanders Morning Show. Appreciate everybody who tapped in live, who's tapping in late. If you want to catch the replay, you can, where we discussed Derek Forrest. Derek Forrest has had some increased snap counts, specifically against the New Orleans Saints. That's not injury related. He was in early and often against the New Orleans Saints, so that's kind of an interesting development, post bye week wrinkle that I think we should probably pay attention to. Talking about Jeremy Chin, Zach Ertz, like who exactly is more important, and it's probably their loss is going to be felt a little bit more bigger than the other player that may miss some time. And obviously the film session. So if you want to catch the replay and miss those conversations, definitely tap back in. All 32 will be out this evening, 7-ish. We'll be out at 7 p.m. And then obviously the game preview tomorrow with the gang, AJ Drake, will be live tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll be back for the morning show Friday morning, 6 a.m., man. Appreciate everybody who's tapping in. Morning Trappers. Enjoy y'all day, man. We up out of here. Peace.
Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Damn, set. Watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole, or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long, or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.